The palace gates loomed large. They were imposing barriers of iron and stone. They had stood for centuries, silent witnesses to generations of royalty. Today a nervous energy crackled in the air. The royal guard, renowned for their stoicism, stood to attention. Their faces, usually impassive, betrayed flickers of anticipation and curiosity. Whispers, hushed and hurried, snaked through their ranks. A new queen was arriving. Captain Marius, a veteran with eyes that had seen countless seasons, adjusted his helmet. He quelled the whispers with a sharp look. Discipline was paramount, especially now. He himself couldn't ignore the wave of curiosity washing over him. This new queen, so young, was shrouded in mystery. Whispers from the capital painted her as a woman of unparalleled beauty and wit. Others spoke of her sharp intellect and even sharper tongue. Marius glanced at the young recruits. Their eyes were wide with anticipation. He recognized that look. It was the same look he had worn when he first joined the guard. The look of someone eager to witness history unfold. Well, today, history would be made. The sun beat down on the meticulously polished armor. The air grew thick with anticipation. Even the palace gardens, usually alive with the buzzing of bees and the chirping of birds, seemed to hold their breath. The time had come. The gates, with a groan that echoed through the courtyard, began to swing open. A collective gasp rippled through the ranks of the royal guard. The queen, bathed in the golden glow of the afternoon sun, rode through the gates. Her arrival was not the thunderous entrance they had expected. There were no fanfare of trumpets, no retinue of servants. She rode alone, a vision of grace and power. Her emerald green riding habit, embroidered with intricate silver thread, flowed around her like liquid moonlight. It accentuated her regal bearing. Atop her head, a circlet of shimmering emeralds rested, mirroring the intensity of her eyes. Those eyes, sharp and intelligent, swept over the assembled guard. They seemed to take in every detail, missing nothing. The queen guided her steed, a magnificent black stallion, with an expert hand. The animal, a symbol of raw power, moved with an unexpected grace under her touch. It was clear that this was not just a queen who sat on thrones and issued decrees. This was a woman who understood the language of power, a woman who could command respect, both on and off the battlefield. The queen brought her horse to a halt in front of Captain Marius. He stood rigidly at attention, his hand on the hilt of his sword. He could feel the weight of her gaze upon him. He had been inspected by kings and queens before. None had ever made him feel quite so seen.
Captain Marius.
Her voice was cool and clear like the sound of mountain spring.
Your Majesty.
He bowed his head, acutely aware of the eyes of his men upon him. He could practically feel their curiosity radiating in waves.
Your men seem eager to meet their new queen.
Her lips curved into a slight smile. It was a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes.
They are merely eager to serve, Your Majesty.
Indeed.
Her gaze swept over the assembled men once more.
Then let them prove their eagerness.
She dismounted her horse with an effortless grace that belied her small stature. The movement, however, did little to diminish her imposing presence.
Inspect my guard, Captain. I trust you will be thorough.
The inspection was unlike any Captain Marius had ever conducted. The queen walked among the men, her steps light and measured. She stopped every few paces, her sharp eyes taking in every detail. She commented on a smudge on a breastplate here, a loose strap there. Her tone was conversational, almost teasing, yet there was an underlying current of steel. She stopped in front of a young recruit, barely old enough to shave. The recruit, clearly overwhelmed by the queen's presence, stammered as he tried to answer her questions.
And your name, soldier?
The queen asked, her head tilted slightly.
Pepito, Your Majesty.
The recruit squeaked, his cheeks turning a bright shade of red.
Well, Peter, I do hope you polish your sword more often than you polish your armor. It wouldn't do to be outshined in battle now, would it?
The men stifled their laughter. Marius, trying to maintain his composure, cleared his throat. The queen's gaze snapped to him, amusement dancing in her emerald eyes. It was then that Marius realized something. This queen, with her playful jabs and sharp wit, was not to be underestimated. She was a force to be reckoned with. The inspection was nearing its end. The queen paused before Captain Marius, her expression unreadable.
Your men seem competent enough, Captain.
They are the finest in the realm, Your Majesty.
Are they? Then surely they can provide me with some entertainment. Is there anyone here who dares to cross blades with their queen?
A stunned silence fell over the courtyard. Marius stared at the queen, his mind racing. Surely she wasn't serious. He was about to object when a voice rang out from the ranks.
I will face you, Your Majesty.
It was Liam, one of the youngest and most skilled swordsmen in the guard. He stepped forward, his youthful face a mask of determination. Marius felt a pang of pride for the young man's bravery, mixed with a healthy dose of apprehension.
Excellent. Let us see what you have, soldier.
A training ring was quickly assembled in the courtyard. The guards, forming a circle around the perimeter, watched with bated breath. Liam, armed with a standard-issue sword, faced the queen. She had exchanged her riding gloves for a pair of supple leather gauntlets. In her hand she held a sword that gleamed like a sliver of moonlight. It was a weapon of exquisite craftsmanship, clearly more ceremonial than practical, or so they thought.
The clash of steel against steel resonated through the courtyard. Liam, to his credit, fought well. He was fast and agile, his movements fluid and precise.
But the queen moved like a phantom. Her blade was a blur of motion, deflecting every one of Liam's attacks with effortless ease. She fought with a grace and precision that was almost unnerving to watch.
It was clear that the queen was toying with Liam, testing his limits. She would disarm him with a flick of her wrist, only to allow him to regain his footing. Then she would attack again, her movements a whirlwind of steel and fury. The guards watched, mesmerized, as their queen danced around their comrade. Finally, with a swift movement that was almost too fast to follow, the queen disarmed Liam. Her blade, a hair's breadth from his throat, stopped short. Liam stood frozen, his chest heaving, as the reality of his defeat sunk in.
Well fought, soldier.
The queen said, her voice echoing in the sudden silence. She sheathed her sword, the movement swift and decisive.
You have potential. Hone your skills and you will go far.
Liam, still catching his breath, bowed his head.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
The queen turned her gaze to the rest of the assembled guards. Her eyes, no longer playful, held a newfound intensity.
My reign marks a new era for this kingdom, an era of strength, of prosperity, and of unity. I expect my royal guard to be the embodiment of these ideals. Are you with me?
We are, Your Majesty.
The response this time was unanimous. It was a roar that echoed through the courtyard, filled with newfound respect and a touch of awe. The sun began its final descent, casting long shadows across the courtyard. The queen, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, addressed her guard. Her words, though spoken softly, held the weight of command. They spoke of duty, of loyalty, and of the courage to face any challenge. But more than that, they spoke of the potential that lay dormant within each of them.
True strength lies not in brute force, but in the will to protect, to serve, and to inspire.
Her words resonated deeply within Marius. He looked at his men, at their faces illuminated by the setting sun, and he saw a change. The initial apprehension had been replaced by a sense of purpose, of dedication. This queen, with her emerald eyes and her quick wit, had done more than just inspect her guard. She had challenged their perceptions, shattered their expectations, and ignited a spark of something greater within them. As darkness fell and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Marius dismissed his men. He watched as they dispersed, their steps lighter, their shoulders squared with a newfound confidence. The queen's words, he knew, would stay with them. They would serve as a guiding light, a reminder of the potential that lay within them. He looked up at the queen's chambers, a single light burning brightly in the gathering darkness. He offered up a silent prayer for their new ruler, for the woman who had, in the span of a single afternoon, managed to inspire not just a group of soldiers, but an entire kingdom. The Queen's arrival had been unconventional, unexpected, and undeniably unforgettable. And as Marius turned and walked away, he knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his bones, that their world would never be the same. The reign of the Queen had begun, and with it, a new chapter in their kingdom's history was about to be written.